Hey folks, today I want to talk to you about mindset from a negative perspective, but how to become aware that that negative perspective resides in oneself. Now, it may not be you, it may be someone else, but the key is when you realize maybe the core issue of where this energy comes from, then you can hopefully begin to acquire or achieve having an understanding with the involved parties that are harboring this kind of energy and that are harboring this type of, mindset. And it may be towards you or maybe towards others. Hey, Sir Charles Carey here, and if you've ever heard the phrase, study long, you study wrong, then you know exactly what I'm talking about as it relates to mindset when things go off the charts, when things are not aligned, when things are not verified, when people are holding either you or someone else to a level and they don't really have the wherewithal to do so. Now, that does not mean that they're completely wrong, but maybe they just don't have all of the facts. So I just want to point some things out to you that can make a huge difference. And hopefully, as I point this out, not only will you see it and will it ring true to you, but it'll give you a little bit of leverage on how you can try to reach out to analyze and to identify with this person that may, maybe just have come to terms in their mind without any actual verification. And like I said before, study long, study wrong. Now, it does not mean that it's always that way. But what it does mean, as it relates to personal issues or issues with other people, sometimes we really do have the wrong impression, or we don't have enough information to come to a solid conclusion on why we see this person a particular way, or why that person makes us feel a certain way. You see, sometimes it's the way you think, and sometimes it's the way you feel. And depending on, all the issues at hand, that will determine really whether or not, you're spot on with why you're even thinking about things in the manner in which you're thinking of them. Now, I look at myself, honestly, I consider myself reasonably sharp. I have a good view of other people, and I do understand personality types. And when I'm in play, I know the role that I usually play. And I'm not always the good guy. Sometimes I am, quote unquote, the bad guy. But at the same time, I feel I must protect myself. So if something happens, I come to a conclusion, but not just because something happens. I look at how often has this or something like this occurred between myself and this person, or how often does this personality style line up against my personality style? Because see, it doesn't have to always be the same person. It could be someone with a similar personality type. Hey folks, Sir Charles Carey here. Most people that are watching this content may not even be subscribers. Do me a huge favor and subscribe to our channel, share it and like it. All the things that most people are asking you to do. Now, if you really like what you're getting here, please go to our website. The link will be in the description so that we can give you something free. No obligation. It'll either be the 3 peak tips or a structured breakdown so that you can take advantage of it. And again, there's no obligation. As we continue to build the channel, look for new subscribers, and look for the opportunity
to pour into other people. We know there is massive value. I've been doing this for quite some time, and all I really want to do in my life is more of the same. Pour into others the way others have poured into me. I work with many people. I've studied from many of the greats, and now it's your turn to get the same opportunity. Thanks a lot. See you. Back to the conversation.
So you have your narcissist and many other personalities that sometimes don't get along. Well, actually, probably a lot of times they don't get along with other people, but it's because they have their own agenda. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you at all. It's simply because people have gone through things and they are shocked, or they may be reminded of those occurrences. Sometimes they're called triggers. Sometimes it's just straight up trauma, and sometimes those terms are interchangeable. So when you think about it, you have to realize, what is it that you're up against with this person, or what is it that you're looking at with this personality type versus another personality type. Because in the long run, or the long state of affairs, what happens is sometimes the person may be paralyzed. I'm talking mentally, or immobilized, meaning that they are caught between a rock and a hard place in their mind, in their own mind, because they're thinking about this thing. It's weighing on them, and they may not want it to weigh on them. They may not really want to think about it as often as they do, but they are, and they have. Now, I know it's happened to me. I've thought about things to a point where it just frustrated me to no end. And I may talk to people I feel I can trust about it, but then I'm realizing I may be wearing them out because I'm constantly talking about this thing. So until I'm able to address it directly with the person or the people, and hopefully in a reasonable fashion, I'm still spinning in my mind the same thoughts, more or less, because my information is limited. And in some cases, people are spinning and they don't have any information. They're going on third party, which is hearsay, aka hearsay. And it's funny because you and I may know the same group of people, but I may get along with someone that you simply don't. And when you tell me about this person, I may say, wow, okay, I've never experienced that. Now, some people, they have a different approach. You tell them something about someone that you know you have mutual relationships with, and they may say to themselves, or say to themselves and to you, whoa, I didn't know they were like that. And they will adopt the same mindset that you have. Yet they did not experience this problem. The problem was experienced with someone else. And that's very unfortunate, because I truly believe you treat people the way that you've been treated. I believe it's really very important that we understand who we are, how we are, and there's value in relationships. But when you start to take on the opinions and the feelings of other people, although you have not been personally impacted in that way, that can be a problem, especially if it's family or a business relationship. So we have to realize that many times what happens is people start to convince themselves. They literally convince themselves of a particular scenario. And when they convince themselves, they become reassured that their thinking is right. And here's the problem with that. They're reassuring themselves without any facts because now they've been thinking about this thing so much and so long, or because they're close with someone that has shared something with them. They're logging on or attaching themselves to someone else that may have witnessed it or experienced it, but yet it may not have actually happened to them. So there's a lot of different ways we can spin things, but when you spend a lot of time in your mind, you're in your head so much, you're thinking so much about a particular issue, and you're not addressing the issue directly, you may be doing yourself a grave injustice.
This episode is sponsored by our upcoming webinar, 5 Reasons Your Dreams Never See the Light of Day. It's a Truality Enterprise Ventures, and we want you to get the information and the insight you really need. Look for the link in the description.
Again, I'll go back to me, and I'll say it honestly with you guys, just like I've said it with people that know me personally. I am a right fighter. And what does that mean? Sometimes I'd rather be right than seemingly to have peace. And you will say, well, that's crazy, Charles, or some would say that. Well, my thinking is, if I'm right, that means I'm trying to take an approach for the sake of truth, justice, and so forth and so on, versus just smoothing over some mess that's only going to reappear another day. Let's get to the crux of the matter versus trying to cover it up. Now, it does not mean I have to talk about everything that I'm right about, because some things are just not that important. But I had to learn that over time. So when it's all said and done, we have to realize that, okay, either you're a truth fighter and you want to get to the bottom of the issue and bury it once and for all, and hopefully the next time the issue reappears, you can, or it will be diminished or less impactful on you and all of those that are concerned. But you have to, in my opinion again, you have to address the issue sooner or later. Now, you have your opinions. I'd love to get your insight, but these problems that we have as human beings, it's really hurtful and it's damaging. And the bad thing about it, not that it's just hurtful and damaging, it can literally ultimately ruin relationships for years and years. So especially if you're in business, when there are other things to take into consideration, such as money, and if you have a staff, other people's livelihoods and reputations and image and things, and there's just so much that is involved. In fact, just thinking about it, I'm grateful that I have learned how to deal with things in a reasonable fashion. Now, I'm not out of the woods. I still have strong opinions about things, but the point still remains. Sometimes you just have to let it go, and sometimes you have to realize there's only but so much you can do with a situation that's gotten out of hand, especially if it's literally unruly. And you have to own yourself. This is why I believe in the mindset of to be open, honest, clear, and direct. And understand something. There's no absolutes. In other words, even when you're open, honest, clear, and direct, it does not mean that things will be fixed, everyone will be happy. No, because many of us have lived with our own perceptions for years and years, and we actually live by them. And when you prove that person wrong, now they may be angry at you because you've shown them something they have never been told, they have never considered, And now they cannot deny hearing or knowing that, although some might. And it's a responsibility on them to do things or to try to do things differently. Whereas they may have been doing these things for years and years. Or they may have had a problem where this clashes with a post-traumatic stress syndrome type of clash in their minds. And now they're truly perplexed in a manner that they may need professional help. Now, it's hard to admit that to oneself, but if you're anything like me, I don't mind speaking about having a solid voice that will tell me I'm wrong in a reasonable or respectful way so that I can receive it and digest it and maybe be able to say, you know what? I see better now. I didn't understand it before, but now I truly understand. And maybe, have a shift in the way that I view things in life, or a shift with other people, or a shift in business. Look, Maya Angelou has said it best. When you know better, you can do better. But also she said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. So with that being said, look, I'd like to invite you to our webinar, 5 reasons your dreams never see the light of day. And you may say to yourself, what does this subject have to do with me in my career or me as an entrepreneur? Well, I'll tell you this. If you don't make changes in your life today, 9 times out of 10, you will be in the exact same position that you were before you even saw this video. This episode is really about trying to create change and helping each and every one of us become a better version of who we are. And the only way to become a better version of who you are, you have to embrace change and hear things from a different perspective. So once again, with that being said, until next time, radiate the brain and change the game.